today we're just practicing a word problem, trying to figure out what are our variables, what are the two equations we're going to use, and then see if we can use elimination or substitution to solve for whatever we need. Some of these word problems today will deal with a quantity and a rate equation. Some of them will deal with two rates. This is like your test coming up on Thursday. If you watch the video after this class, you're going to need to pause it a lot because I'm going to fly through the word problem and then the work. You're going to have to pause it a lot if you actually want to see the details. I'm going to go through the steps that we should have already taken. First off, should have labeled your variables. One of your variables needed to be the decorative beads. The other one needed to be your plain beads because we're assuming we're just buying one thing of string for this necklace. So then we set up two equations. I call it a quantity equation, but it's actually kind of like a rate because 10 beads or 10 decorative beads per package, 25 plain beads per package, and I need a total of 150 to make this necklace. Rate for cost. So now I'm putting in all their cost. $0.50. If it's 50 cents for a package, let's make it 50 cents per bead. We'll just make it easy. We'll keep it 50 cents per bead. And I'll make sure on your test, I'm going to put in those per words. That'll make it easier because I'm not going to try to make this harder. So this is costing 50 cents per bead, 75 cents per bead. These are just really expensive beads. And you can only spend $7. All right. We may only have maybe 2 beads on this. Yeah, simplified rate equation. You got to take that $1.50 cost of string away from 7. So now we have 50 cents per decorative bead plus 75 cents for a plain bead. Total of $5.50. I'm going to use this quantity equation with this money equation. I'm going to show the work up here in broken steps. So I'm multiplying that second equation by negative 20 because I just wanted to eliminate the x's. Need to plug in the variable you found. Plug it into either one of these equations. I'm going to choose the first one. I get down to x being 5 and y being 4, but I go back to what I labeled my variables. I'm going to have 5 decorative beads, 4 plain beads, which we talked about. Wait a second, if we can only spend $7, this is going to be a pretty small necklace. So next problem. I'm looking for pencils. Next problem. With these problems, hopefully you already figured out what your variables were. X is supposed to be, I labeled X to be my number of red oak boards, so just be careful. If you labeled it differently, just make sure those go in the appropriate places. So if you had X being poplar boards, just realize our answers will be switched. And there is a quantity equation. If you add those two together, they should be 14. There is a rate equation, taking each one of how much each cost. Again, this may be switched around if you chose different labels. But total is $48.50. And then let's go through how you solve it. Because I'm dealing with crazy decimals, I actually might use substitution in this case. I might solve for a variable in this one and then take that expression and plug it into the second one. When we have crazy decimals, maybe substitution is the way to go. Is there a mistake? Where? Oh, thanks. I wish you would have stopped me sooner. What is that? What is that difference? 0.85. Great. What do we get when we subtract? 48.5 divided or minus 43.4. You said 5.1? So many decimals. Okay, so I'm going to have to plug that 6 back in to either equation. 6 plus what gets you 14? Y's got to be 8. Put it into the context. I've got one more for you. And again, in this problem, I feel there's no confusion with words. Like, it's definitely clear what equations I want you to set up. A sentence was supposed to be deleted from that. So now, 2 hours to stencil a small box, 3 hours to stencil a large box. You can only spend 30 hours to stencil, and you want to sell 12 boxes. How much of each size should you stencil to get an income? I'm going to map out. First, you should have already figured out your variables. X being something, Y being the other. You've got 2 equations, because I needed this shortened. 2 equations. One is the quantity. If you add them together, I'm only going to do 12 boxes. The other is dealing with your hours. 2 hours per small, 3 hours per large, a total of 30 hours. So whenever you eliminate, we end up having 6 large. So if I go back up, if there's 6 large, what plus 6 gets you 12? That means the other one has to be 6. We're looking at 6 small, 6 large. Homework. Your homework is going to be to finish that orange sheet, the orange, coral, salmon, whatever you want to call it. That chapter 3 thing. I want you to actually fill it out. Tomorrow we're going to go over answers.